You are watching Gouche Live featuring Paul Rosen. There's Rosie, brought to you by the good people of Sports Illustrated and the Hockey News. And of course,
Paramount Sports Management, where we're back.
What a day, what a day.
Kids are coming through now. They're getting ready to go on the ice. And
well, all I can say is I hope we keep hearing those kids over the next couple of weeks, because as you see, our numbers are going up. We won't get into that today, but oh my Lord, please let this pass and allow us to continue on what we're doing. We are at King Heights Academy. The kids are on the ice training with a bunch of great guys. What a great show. Listen, we got Roger Lajoie, one of our favorites. Of course, he's the author, or working on being the author of your book. It's not complete. You guys talk. I want to talk to him a little bit, maybe not about the specifics, because we want people to actually buy the book and read it. I want to ask him, because I am an author. He's a multi-time author.
Yes.
Mine was difficult. I want to ask him how difficult it is. I've heard you guys on the phone, talking, and how does he do it? So we'll go through that a little quickly. Then I'd love to, there's baseball. Roger knows everything about baseball, and I know you've got a couple of questions for him. And then finally, let's talk to him about the NHL and where we are. And while we're talking about the book thing, I wouldn't mind asking him, obviously Team Canada's 72 week, and I'd love to ask him about his phenomenal book, The Goal of My Life with Paul Henderson.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it. Spent a lot of time in the last couple of days with him, and I'm honored that he decided to take on the task of writing my life story.
I'm not sure why you picked Roger over me, but I'm going to ask him that. Roger, why would he pick you over me as the author? I don't get it.
Because
I don't get it either. That makes no sense. Yeah. Makes no sense either. I'm just happy he did, and it's a real honor for me too. And we will have a lot of fun with it. One of the best things about writing biographies and this kind of thing is it's actually, even though it's an important thing, it's a very it's such a fun thing to do as well. So I look forward to it very much, and Paul and I are nicely underway, and somewhere in the neighborhood of 6 to 8 months from now, I'll be begging you to come back on the show and pump this book up.
Absolutely, and that'll be an easy sell, no question. Maybe it had something to do with in playing hockey, junior hockey, I got a chance to get a scholarship. They came, and it was Colgate, and they were really excited about getting me in the roster and all that sort of stuff. In those days, they were a little bit questionable on marks. And I had a D in English, believe it or not. I couldn't speak English. So they asked me to take a summer course to see if I could build that. I was pretty good in everything else, especially home ec. And I got a C after being tutored the whole time, and it wasn't quite enough. So I think maybe that's why Paul chose you, because you can actually command the English language. And I've read part of your book, The Goal of My Life, because Paul Henderson, I had him over in Germany for an event in 2001. So I figured I'd need to understand him more. You wrote the book in 2012, but I got to know him there. Wow. What an honor that you had the opportunity to do it. Talk to us a little bit about that book.
Well, thanks, Kerry. That was indeed an honor. That's when it comes down to it. There was a bit of a selection process. There were a few authors kind of, for lack of a better term, bidding and wanting to be involved in that. And I had the opportunity to sit down with Paul and do it. It was a long process. He's had such an incredible life and so many things that have happened to him. And again, I get into the fun of it. It's hard work, as you know, Kerry. Writing a book is extremely difficult work, but difficult, hard work can also be, and that's what that book really was. We were very fortunate. It was a Globe and Mail bestseller. It was a capsule of his life. And of course, the double entendre of the title, The Goal of My Life, is anyone who knows Paul, and you do, I know both of you, the goal of his life was obviously 1972 in Moscow to give Canada the win over the Russians in the first Soviet Russia-Canada series. But the goal of his life is to spread the message of Christianity. And so it was a double-toned book. We covered both, which made it kind of difficult to do. But one of the thrills of my career, I've been so fortunate and lucky to do so many great things, but what a wonderful, wonderful experience, and a wonderful, wonderful man.
Yeah, Roger, I want to ask you one question about that. So obviously 1972, the biggest hockey moment in Canadian history, even till this day, to me. People talk about Vancouver. I just think 72 was it. When people find out that you wrote the book on Henderson, do they talk to you about the fact that Henderson is not in the Hall of Fame and ask you your opinion?
Yeah, it's been an ongoing topic, Paul, and it's an excellent question. But in the book as well, guys, I've lost you here, the audio,
Nope.
just so you're aware.
What? We hear you.
Okay, now I got you. So the last I heard from you, Paul, was that you were talking about Paul Henderson being in the Hockey Hall of Fame and whatever.
Right.
So if I have that, I'll pick it up from there. There's no question. Paul addresses that in the book, though, as well. And I think one of the things that Paul is, among the many attributes he has, is a very honest man. And I think, in all honesty, he realizes that that moment should certainly be in the Hockey Hall of Fame, and it is acknowledged. There are some, and over the years, there's been a picture of him, the iconic photo and whatever. But Paul is quite frank about it, that his career and body of work was not Hockey Hall of Fame caliber. And it really isn't. You talk about the numbers, you talk about the significance. That all said, I think the moment by itself, even if Paul Henderson hadn't done anything, and let's not forget, guys, not only did he score in Game 8, he scored the winning goals in Game 6, 7, and 8 of that series. So it's like, and I know people are about the Hockey Hall of Fame, but my goodness, surely they could find room for Paul Henderson. And it is a debate, but I think the reason that the debate never really, although I know people have been advocated online over the years, really took off is Paul was lukewarm about it. Of course, he'd be honored to be in the Hockey Hall of Fame, but I think he realizes his playing career in the National Hockey League was a bit short of that standard. But end of the day, he's been acknowledged. He's had a great life and great fame, and I would like to see that rectified at some point. But I think it's going to take a change of mindset from the Hockey Hall of Fame people, because clearly he's not going to score another goal. And it was 48th anniversary, Paul, they'll consider it. That'd be nice.
The only thing that bothers me about that, when we talk about, yes, he didn't have a Hall of Fame NHL career, but that moment in 72, why is Tretiak in? Tretiak didn't play in the NHL. Tretiak was amazing as a Russian goalie, but from 72, that's what bothers me. Tretiak's in. Why is Henry not?
Tretiak did win a lot of gold medals for his country.
Yeah, okay, but that was the series. That was the hockey. Yep. I don't know. I'm not going to change my mind.
And nor should you.
Well, no, Paul, listen, good for you. Yeah, good for you for advocating, and I know Paul appreciates it. And largely, I agree. The moment should be enough to allow him to go in. But Vladislav Tretiak's a Hall of Famer. Period. Case closed.
Yeah, I think.
Even if he had not played in the 72 series. So.
Sorry, Roger. I just want to interject, and certainly we're not slighting you, Rosie, at all. But you can't compare the two at all, just due to the fact that their careers are so differently. Paul does deserve, for that moment in time, it's an international Hall of Fame. It's not just the NHL, so there's no question. But when I think, Roger, you get it best, his numbers were not the greatest in the NHL, and I think some people look at that, and that's wrong. There's no question. Hey, we want to say hello to Ashley Langdon, all the way from Edmonton, tuning in, and I know Robert Wine is here, and he's hoping, guys, if we can get your story on Kubo. I'm not sure what that is, but hopefully that you'll be able to do that.
Robert ripping me every show. Robert says something not nice about me.
Oh, that's really nice. He doesn't read books. He reads Kubo.
Oh, okay. I thought it was
Stephen Rosen. That we'll talk about that in the baseball part. Listen, I wanted to ask you this, Roger. Obviously, writing a book like Paul Henderson, and now you're on the works of Paul Rosen. Again, I joke about it. I'm not an author. I had an opportunity. They came to Keith and I and say, hey, listen, you guys are doing concussion work. I've never read anything about concussions that was directed at the average person versus the doctor. So Keith and I, thank you. Wow. So Keith and I put this book together to help the athletes to understand you're not alone and all that sort of stuff. And I wrote all my story on my own, and Keith had a ghostwriter, but really helped him. So my question to you is, how difficult is it for you, who didn't live the life of Paul Henderson or Paul Rosen, to be able to take from their minds their story, put it on paper, and then make it a bestseller like you did with Paul Henderson?
Well, the difficulty becomes a lot less more difficult the more time you spend talking with them. I also wrote Jimmy Devellano's book, The Road to Hockeytown, in 2008. Those are the two sports biographies I have read. And I'm not Paul Henderson. I'm not Jimmy Devellano. I'm not Paul Rosen either, obviously. But the two previous books required an enormous amount of phone calls, in-person visits, discussing. And the book is going to be in the words of Paul Rosen, that I'm going to use my talents as a writer to get out there in the best possible way. So, Kerry, it may be quote unquote difficult, but the further we talk, the more we discuss, and the more interviews you do with the subject, in this case, the great Paul Rosen, then it becomes much easier. So I don't look at it as a difficult task from that standpoint. It's work. It's hard work at times, but work sometimes can be more fun than fun. And we will have a lot of fun on it, and I'll be very happy to see that book out when it comes out, and I know Paul will be as well, and I'm confident we're going to do a terrific job.
And I get the first signed copy from both of you. Hey, listen, Robert Weinstein, no, it's me.
If you pay, Kerry, let me interject. If you pay, you can have the first signed copy. That's no problem.
I love, you know what, Kerry, I'm going to tell you, the first thing that we talked about when we talked about this is Roger said to me, you are not giving away a book. That's not happening. You'll sign as many books as people want, but they're paying for the book.
Absolutely. And we learned that first from the concussed book with Keith, and that obviously our purpose was a little bit different than yours. Ours was to educate people on concussions and getting people to understand. So we did have to use a lot of them for promotion. And to be a bestseller in Canada, I don't know if it's still the same, Paul or Roger, but it was 5,000, and we're at roughly 4,200. So I have to buy 800 books to become a bestseller and give them away. But no, we fully understand that. Listen, somebody's taking time to write it. You have to pay the bills. You have to pay for the print. So we understand that fully. I will send you the $20. I'll even do it in advance. So listen, Robert's just saying, no, Paul, I'm looking forward to reading your book, but only way that he can do it is to go through Kubo, because he has a tough time holding the book up.
I just saw Robert's message, and Robert, rest assured, the industry and the publishing industry has changed a great deal from 2008 when I wrote Jimmy D, 2012 from Paul Henderson. 2020, 2021 is when the book will come out. I assure you it will be available in every form that you want to get it. So I'll just leave it at that. That is not as difficult to do as it was back in the day. So thank you for that, and we'll note that.
Absolutely. And listen, we're digressing a little bit. Stephen Ellis throws out, you have to score more than a few big goals in a two-team tournament to deserve a spot in the Hall of Fame. And then he says, hey, Rosie, don't worry. Your picks were better than Gouche's. Now I'm getting the barbs.
Well, you know what? Stephen Ellis is doing that because he's 20-something. When you're 40, 50, or 60, 70-something, you understand Henderson and the goal and the 72 series.
It's in anything, Roger. You can do that yourself. You know, there's a passion. There's an argument for both sides, and probably there's something in the middle. And you know, I love Paul Henderson. I've had an opportunity to sit with a great man. I've heard the stories, and I just want to share one story. And if you can confirm if I remembered it correctly, Roger, he was telling me, Ron Ellis, of course, who forwarded the book, arguably one of the nicest human beings on the planet. I'm sure you really enjoyed spending time with him, and still do, Roger. There was one story, the peanut butter story, of course, that they ended up drinking milk and eating peanut butter sandwiches instead of a big party after the win. And the one that I heard Paul say, and again, I this is not verbatim, it's not for quote, maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, but he actually was on the bench. And I don't have all the names right now off the top of my head, but I think it was Peter Mahovich or Frank Mahovich was put on the ice. They had just been taken off, Ronnie and himself, and Harry Sinden said, guys, get ready to go. And there was only a couple minutes left. And that usually, you know, the guys stayed on a little bit longer. And Paul said, turned to Ron and said, I visioned me scoring. I got to get on. And he got up and called off the player. And normally he didn't do that. And I think it was a Mahovlich. And Mahovlich actually came off. And that's where you see him darting in. Do I have any sense of truth in that?
100% correct. Yeah, no, 100%. Paul insisted he was going to be on the ice, and he was not the kind of guy that generally insisted he was going to be on the ice. But that is 100%. That was verified by all the principals involved, and makes such a great story so much better. But there was no question that was what he was all about. He had to be on the ice because he felt he was going to get that goal. And then when you see the goal and the energy and around the net and buzzing and going back and forth, he was not going to be denied that day in September of '72. So I can verify that is a true story.
Paul, just before you comment, I want to say one more thing. Did you hear the story about the milk and peanut butter? Is that also true? Because I think it was Ron Ellis. I had them over in Germany in 2001. I've seen them far after that, but I had a lot more time with them while I was in Germany. I did a charity event, had Team Canada 72 play against the German national team. It was an unbelievable event, and I had to come home early, but I sat with them and heard all the stories. And I recall the Russian government was so upset about the fact that they lost that they canceled the party that they were throwing, and somehow the beer and the steaks were stolen or confiscated, and they ended up going back to the hotel room and sitting in the hallway drinking milk and eating peanut butter sandwiches that some of the wives had brought. True or not true?
Well, that story never came up in terms of the peanut butter and what they did, but the fact that the booze, the steaks were stolen was an ongoing story from 1972. That and the mysterious construction at 3 o'clock in the morning that started outside the Team Canada hotel. So there is no question the Russians pulled out all the stops all the way. I can't confirm the peanut butter and milk, but I can confirm that a lot of the stuff was stolen from Team Canada. And that's what, to Paul Rosen's point about the story about Paul Henderson, is you really had to understand the time, the way the world was and what it was. And it was just, it sounds trite to say hockey's a war, but oh my goodness, it was really a fierce battle. And yeah, all kinds of shenanigans went on in Russia, no question.
Yeah. Paul.
Yeah, so Roger, I want to talk to you about something that maybe a lot of people don't know. You have been in this business a long time. You've been at the Fan. What is it? 28 years at the Fan.
28 years, yeah.
28 years at the Fan. Been in sports a long, long time. You teach a course, but you're also an official scorer for the Toronto Blue Jays. I love baseball. Gouche not so much, but talk to us about how you got involved in being an official scorer, and how is it now when you can't be at the ball game?
Well, thanks, Paul. How I got involved first was a lifelong passion for baseball, and that lifelong passion included 35 years as the official scorer of the Toronto Maple Leafs of the Intercounty Baseball League. So let me repeat that: 35 years in the minors. So you think some players had to spend a lot of time in the minors before they got their call up. I spent 35 years at Christie Pitts with Jack Dominico yelling in my ear and no TV replay and people complaining and kids running around. But long story short, the Blue Jays were looking for another official scorer because they're hard to find, guys. It's a pretty high pressure job. You have to have an incredible knowledge of baseball and understand the game. You don't have to have played. I played as a kid, but I'm not a former pro, and it pays well, but it doesn't pay well enough that a former player or even an umpire is going to say, I want to be an official scorer. So where do you find that guy? You find someone who's watched a lot of baseball, has followed a lot of baseball, and knows the rules enough. So the Blue Jays asked me when one of the scorers left to please come in and help them. This is my 9th season. I've got more than 200 games experience at the major league level now, and close to 1,000 when you include my time in the intercounty. And so it's the experience that got me the gig. I love it. It can be stressful. It's a difficult job. But to your point, Paul, about this year, wow, it's a toughie. I'm doing what Buck Martinez and Dan Schulman are doing. Buck Martinez and Dan Schulman are downstairs in the Sportsnet studios watching on a monitor and calling the game, doing the play-by-play. I'm upstairs when I'm scoring. In the radio portion, I have a TV screen. I have a couple of computers, and we have access to the one camera at Salem Field in Buffalo, because I only do home games, and I'm one of 3 for the home games, just so everybody understands. It's not always me. So if you don't like a call from a game, it wasn't me. It was the other 2 guys, trust me. And they have the camera overlooking the field that we can see. It never moves. So it's as if we're sitting in the press box We can watch that. We have another monitor, which is the TV broadcast that you all get to see. And a third is connected to a chat room where I make my official scoring decisions. So at the Rogers Center, I usually announce it on the microphone. Now I'm in the chat room and I say base hit or E9 or whatever the case may be. But wow, it's you only get so many looks without being there live, Paul. So it's been tough this year, but we're getting through it. I only got, I think, 2 games left on the schedule this year, although looks like we might have some Blue Jay playoff games to deal with down the road too. Yeah,
Gooch,
wouldn't that be great?
Gooch, before you jump in, I want just one more baseball thing.
Yeah.
And before I ask you this question, for the average person that doesn't really know much about baseball, I'm just going to tell you, for the fans out there that don't understand what Rod's saying, he's calling it from a monitor. In 2014, I did the Paralympic Games for CBC. Rob Snook and myself called the games from Front Street, CBC, in a tiny little room, like a 10 by 10 room, off a monitor from Russia. And at one point, Greg Westlake was taking the puck. He was coming down the wing, and we lost our feed. There was another feed in a room across from us that I looked and I saw somehow a little piece of Westlake on another camera, called it from there. So I called it from a room to another room from Russia through a monitor. So calling a game on a monitor is not easy. The last question I want to ask you about. Yeah, absolutely. So for the average fan who doesn't know baseball, you were talking about this before. Talk about the play that everybody thinks, they see a line shot to the right fielder. He totally misses it, doesn't touch it, goes right over his head. People are screaming at the official score. Why isn't that an error? Explain to people.
Well, Paul, one of the things about official scoring, I equate it to hockey refereeing. All right. Hockey refereeing, for instance, when there are certain rules that referees are told to call a certain way. So when a defenseman shoots the puck out, and to use one, in his own zone, and we all know it. We just saw it and cost Vegas a berth, at least to have the series extended in the Western Conference Final. When the puck goes over the glass, it's an automatic call. It is just simply, period, a 2-minute penalty. There's no personal opinion put into it. Some baseball calls are the same. So to your example, a right fielder runs in, he misjudges, oh my goodness, looks behind him, turns around and runs after the ball. That probably should be called an error. The outfielder misjudged it, but we are told in the rules of official scoring, that's a base hit unless the outfielder happens to get his glove on it and touch it. So some people might, to your point, be complaining about the call. Another one is the pop fly and to the pitcher's mound. And we've all seen this play. 4 or 5 guys standing around looking at it, and the ball falls down between them. Nobody makes a move. That's a base hit. It's not fair to the pitcher, but for the consistency of official scoring, that is always ruled a base hit. So there are certain plays that, and everyone, they see that play and they'll say to me as official scorer, boy, that must have been a tough call. There's a lot of tough calls, but those 2 calls, they're not tough at all. They're automatic. In the same way, it's automatic. The referee doesn't have to think about the player, the defenseman, saying, hey, did he mean to clear the puck out over the glass? No, he doesn't. It's 2-minute penalty. Off you go. Question. You can see the baseball guy in the room. There's no question.
Yeah.
Hey, Roger, there's a couple of comments on the right-hand side I just want to pop up, of course. Hope you're doing well, Kerry. Roger, Paul, and Gooch, my fave 3 guys. Thank you, Mark Lee, for that compliment. Robert coming back and saying, Paul, he just wanted to let you know that's how we will be able to read it. One of the good guys, Mr. Lajoie, from Mark Lee. And then he asked me to ask you, Stan?
Abodiak.
Yeah.
Abodiak. I was waiting for you to say it.
Yeah.
I was waiting for you to say it, Roger. I butcher up
First
names,
of all,
so.
First of all, and good for you for checking. Good for you. Mark Lee, first of all, wonderful to see you. We're friends on Facebook as well. Mark, all the best to you. A lot of great memories. Another terrific guy. He's done a lot in the sports business for a lot of years. So hope you are safe and well and everything is good for you, Mark. And Stan Abodiak was one of a kind. He was the long time Toronto Maple Leaf publicist is the title he had. And he had a tremendous run and career at Maple Leaf Gardens. It was a different era, a different time. There was no social media. There was no internet. It was all in person. And Stan had his own way about him. He was a a different kind of a person for sure. But I had nothing but the highest admiration for Stan. Passed away many years ago, but a wonderful, wonderful man. And thanks for that, Mark, because Stan was a terrific guy, and that brings back some great memories. And I know you probably have some dealings with him as well. So thank you for that, Mark.
So, Paul, before you make your final comment to Roger, I'd just like to ask you a question, Roger. Being an ump, Robert saying this to you guys, of course, in any sport is brutal because the fans always think you're wrong. Very true. As a coach, I don't think I met many, or player coach, I don't think I met many referees. And one happens to be a German named Mr. Fuchs, Fuchs. Still have some fun with him. But it's taking that job on as you have, Paul, and of course you being a scorer. My question to you guys is about umpiring. Do you see the day that there will only go to these electronic eyes and eliminate the umpire from this game and possibly into hockey and other sports?
I say no.
Robert, Robert's comment I see here. Robert, I just want to clarify so you understand. I'm not an umpire. I'm an official scorer. I'm the one who's ruling on the hits and errors. The umpires are still on the field at Salem Field in the ballpark, just so you understand. But your point is very valid, and Kerry, your question's a good one as to at what point are we going to see more computerized stuff. We see it a lot in tennis now, where the whether the ball is in or out is now done by, I believe it's a Hawkeye system in tennis, where it's definitively done. If you can definitively get a call, but here is where I think with umpires and referees and other sports, there is always going to be an element of judgment that has to be done. And yes. So I don't think it ever changes, but I think we're seeing now with the increased use of instant replay in sports, I mean, how many times if there's any major call that can be redone? Now to the umpiring thing, Robert, that automatic strike, the little box we see on television that has it, it's really good. It's really accurate, but it's not 100%. It's not 100%. You ask them sometimes just where the ball, even the big backers of it will say it's not a 100% call. So therefore, let's go with the umpire. Do we ever see the day if that improves and you can definitively say strike, that the umpire maybe has a microphone and in its ear it says strike, and the umpire just does that? I don't know. We accept it. Why don't we have robots play the game then, if that's the case, and get rid of all the human players if we're going to
RoboCop
1,000% professional.
Well, I definitely hope not. My nephew Ben, my brother's son, is a professional umpire. This would have been his 6th year going back to AA, and he's obviously out of work, and he has no clue whether he'll be back or not with the minors being shut down. I want to ask you a last question about hockey now. Are you happy with the way the playoffs are going right now? We're in the bubble. Obviously, Dallas has shocked everybody, and they're in the Stanley Cup final. Who knows if the Islanders are going to stretch it and win in 7 or Tampa's going to be there. But what's your thoughts basically on the way the game is going in the bubble and Dallas? Are they surprising you as they're surprising so many?
Paul, I'm glad you asked that, because I have to say, I think as a society, we are not fully appreciating what we are watching right now with these athletes. Think about it. While many of us are sitting in our homes, and rightfully so, with a mask, not going anywhere, not doing anything, everything's on hold, these guys have given up their lives, and I know they're well paid, put that aside. They've given up their lives. They've gone into a hub, a bubble. They've been stuck there for months, and they're still playing double overtime games to avoid elimination. Even the coaches involved at the start of this, Paul and Kerry, had said they were worried that if teams got down 3-0 in a series, they'd, forget about it. Let's get out of here. Get down 2-0. We're never going to come back. Let's get out of this bubble. Look at the way the Islanders are battling. Look at the way Vegas battled. They lost in overtime. It's like nobody wants to leave there. I think under the circumstances with no fans, the crazy situation, you're no family. Who wants to leave their family for 2 months? 2 months you don't see your kids. You got young kids at home. 2 months you don't see them. You're playing in front of no fans. You've got this, COVID thing that we're all dealing with, and so are they, even though they've been tested and have great I think the hockey has been fantastic. I credit the National Hockey. This is a minor miracle that this is taking place. And I think 20 years from now, we're going to look back on this and we're all going to say, oh my goodness, this was, and better still, we'll tell our kids or grandkids, 20 years old, hey, what was it like in the pandemic? Well, it was pretty scary and all this happened. Did they play sports? And we'll be able to say, have I got a great story for you? Yes, they did. They created a bubble and they put and they'll look at, yeah, okay, whatever. No one will believe it. It's been that great. And as Dallas, hey, playoffs, gritty, dirty, muck up the ice, defensive hockey, nothing spectacular, all team, no I. I'm surprised I didn't pick them, but am I surprised by the way they've played that they're in the Stanley Cup final? Not at all. Not at all. And I think now they got a 50-50 shot at the very worst. So we'll see what happens. But I'm thrilled by and by the way, same thing in the NBA. Another fantastic. The playoffs, hey, Denver Nuggets. Down 3-1 to the Clippers in Kawhi. Come on. We may as well go home. We're never going to beat the Clippers in Kawhi. Guess what? I don't know if you guys watch basketball, but the last 3 games of that series were incredible. So I'm a big backer, guys. It's been great.
I'm not a huge basketball fan, but I've been watching, obviously, with the pandemic, and obviously, for sure, I'm a big Raptors fan. I'll admit it. I jumped on the bandwagon. I remember the old days with Larry Bird and all that sort of stuff with the Celtics. But that block last night, I don't know what the name of the player was at the end of the game when he jumped up and he blocked, a game-tying shot, was absolutely probably one of the highlights of the season. And I was rooting for Kawhi. I wanted him to win, obviously, against the Nuggets, but you can't go against our Canadian boy. He was phenomenal. So, you did mention some I wanted to bring up just before we let you go. You said we'll be talking about it in 20 years. Roger, I'm not sure if you've done the calculations yet. I'm going to be 81. Paul's going to be 80. I think you're going to be like 68. We're going to be in a little bit of trouble. 80. Hopefully we can remember.
Frank, we're talking, guys. 80's the new 60. 60's the new 40. What are you
not
talking
the way
about?
I feel.
And by the way,
I feel today.
I want to get one more thing in, guys. Mark sent a message there again. Mark, thanks. He's talking about the factors make a scoring change in baseball. Some people think it gets changed to fix a no-hitter or a streak. Mark, thank you for that. That has never happened. It will never happen. Trust me. Any scoring decision can be appealed. It then goes to Major League Baseball. It is reviewed by, I think it's still Joe Torre who does it. He makes a final decision, period, but he can change any call in baseball. And a no-hitter has never been given or taken away on an official scoring change. And I can tell you, it does not matter. Every play, the reason the pressure is so high, 2 outs, no-hitter going in the bottom of the 9th, and a questionable play, it's either a hit or it's not. 30-game hit streak on the line. Is it going to be 31? It's either a hit or it's not. And we are adamant about that kind of stuff. And I can't speak for the history of baseball, but in the 9 years I've been in Major League Baseball and go to the official scoring meetings, that does not happen ever. And I want to make that clear. That's a great question,
wow,
Mark.
Yeah. And it would be, thank you for that. And it'd be really interesting because, the no-hitters going in the 9th, 2 out. I wonder how many no-hitters have been lost, in that final one out.
Yeah.
That'd be really interesting to know the numbers.
Dave Steve lost one with the Blue Jays with 2 outs in the 9th inning. I do have to add, too, as far as that goes with the scoring and everything else, guys, and the pressure of everything else and the factor of scoring changes in baseball is that and I'm not going to mention the scorer's name, but it was not me. But another official scorer in a game a couple of years ago in Toronto, you'll appreciate this. I know we're running out of time, but it was a ground ball to Felix Hernandez, who's pitching for Seattle. All right. Felix kind of bobbles it, tosses it over to first, bang play at first base. Tough call. Scorer calls it, base hit. All right. The inning continues, 3-run score. Game's over. He files this thing at the end. At the end of a game, appeal comes in from Major League Baseball to Major League Baseball. Felix Hernandez asked to be given an error on the play. He felt that. Now, if you know anything about baseball, if it's an error, the runs aren't charged to the pitcher. If the pitcher makes the
Underdraft.
air. It's not
Right.
his fault.
Oh.
Okay. He looks at it, they study it. They look. He's right. It's an error. This was with 2 regular season finishes. The result of scoring call, wins the title, and collects a bonus $750,000 US.
Wow.
Jesus.
One scoring call.
Unbelievable.
But he called it on himself. Now that is like what? And that's the magnitude. So even if you don't think, well, what difference does that call? And by the way, the final score of that game was something like 13-4 for the Blue Jays. And at first thought, you think, who cares about a stupid call like that? $750,000. So there you go.
Jesus.
I was just about to bring up the Jim Joyce perfect game, and my brother just brought it up. That was unreal. You remember that
exactly?
one,
well, and I never scored a no-hitter myself, Paul, but I was in the radio booth with Ben Wagner and Mike Wilner last year for a no-hitter, 2 years ago, I think it was, whatever it was, at 2020, who remembers the time, for a no-hitter. And I was so happy I was not scoring that game. Everyone says, oh, would you like to score a no-hitter? No, because you're living at the thought of, oh my goodness, the bottom of the ninth, and I'm going to have to call, I know Dave Perkins of the Star had to call a hit on a borderline play on a no-hitter in the 9th inning, about 8, 9, 10 years ago. And it was a hit, but it was one of those plays that, but it was a hit. And he did what I said about Mark's comment. He did the right thing. He called it a hit.
Yeah.
You are watching Gouche Live featuring Paul Rosen, brought to you by the good people at the Hockey News and, of course, Sports Illustrated.
And Paramount Sports Management.
We've got Brad Thorpe in the green room. Really excited to talk to him about some exciting things. But before we do that, Roger, we are building the Gouche Live featuring Paul Rosen Theater. You see a little bit behind it. We were given some space at Paramount. You are a pro. I love this picture of you. Look at that. That is Roger Lajoie. That's how I always see you. I've been on studio only once or twice with you. I've been in studio with you, and that when I saw that picture, I said, "That's Roger." So we hope that Paul and I can get to look as professional as that in our new studio. Once COVID is over, we're going to ask you in the studio, and the three of us will hang around a camera and pretend we're somebody just like you.
I cannot wait for the end. Well, I can't wait for the end of COVID. I think I speak for humanity and everyone on the planet. I can't wait for the end of COVID, and I can't wait for that day too. Really enjoy that, guys. It's always a pleasure to be with you. All the best to both of you. You're doing great stuff on your show, and the best thing, enjoy it, have some fun, and I know a lot of people are enjoying it. So all the best to you.
Thank you,
Roger. We'll talk tomorrow.
Yeah. What a great guy. I love Roger. Roger.
I've been on the phone with him now for an hour and a half every day, 3-4 days a week for the last couple of weeks. He is man, he's a professional. He's bringing
sounds like you guys are dating.
What's that?
Almost sounds like you guys are dating.
Yeah, could be. It was kind of probably had more things with him than with my ex-wife. I never really kissed her much either.
Oh my God. You didn't just go there, did you?
I did. But you know what? He's a great guy. He's bringing some stories out. When we finish, I feel like, whoa, I said some things I didn't know I was going to go places, but incredible guy.
Well, I really look forward to, obviously, our buddy coming up next. He is an incredible individual. He's doing some amazing things with I would say, not only with ISOFIT, but he's did a bit of traction change, obviously, COVID thing to change. We need to think out of the box, and him and his wife of that. They've opened up an academy. It's called Girls Only Academy. We'll talk to him about that and ISOFIT. But what's just as important is obviously me being here and working with King Heights Academy, which is a private school. Man, does it take a lot to make it happen. And I'm really excited to talk to Brad about that. Ladies and gentlemen, Brad Thorpe.
Hey, gentlemen, how you guys doing today?
Fantastic.
Having a great time. I'm loving the show so far. You know, I'm a huge fan, as you know, Carrie.
Absolutely. Listen, I wanted John, Tony working here at the King High Academy, and they're not shameless plugs. This is just the fact of life that Jeff Emerald had asked us to get involved in it, or get her involved, because they needed somebody to do logistics, and everybody knows my wife can do logistics. So when I heard what you were doing, I thought it was important to get you on and talk about your Girls Only Academy, how you got started on it, where it came from, and then actually putting it together and then implementing it is absolutely incredible. But before we go there, let's talk about ISOFIT and where you are. That I love your new, is it portable, the new machine? I love that.
Yeah, so as you know, because you've been on the main ISOFIT strength trainer, which we've had in the marketplace since 2015, with being able to sort of show it around everybody, it becomes very problematic when it's a 300-pound machine. So what we've had this idea of a portable unit now for a couple of years, and we just sort of put it on the back burner because we didn't really want to sort of have too many product lines sort of tapping our finances and stretching us too thin. But with COVID, it kind of thrusted us into that position where it's like, okay, well, the gym industry unfortunately is going to be hit hard. It's going to be negatively affected through shutdowns and obviously the risk of going back to a gym environment, because the mentality of the consumer is that gyms are dirty, even though I believe they're some of the cleanest businesses on the planet, because they have a in-house training or an in-house cleaning staff historically that would clean all day anyways. And so what I ended up realizing quickly was we needed to bring this product to market quickly. So in March, I found a new manufacturer that was capable of sort of producing the MSK product. And to give you like an idea of how much of a weight difference it is, so this unit is 39 pounds versus 300 pounds. So we've cut out a whole bunch of material and weight, but we haven't sacrificed really the end use or the experience for the end user. So that's been great. So we had to go through the whole design process. We had to file some patents, both in the US and Canada, and subsequently Europe and Australia. I know you're pretty big down in the Australian market as well. So if you guys are listening down there, ISOFIT's coming soon. I also do already have existing Australian patents, so that's kind of cool as well. But what we're able to do is basically bring isometric strength training to the masses in a very, very cost-effective way. And the machine itself, as I said, is portable. So you can take it to the hockey rink, you can take it to the field, you can take it anywhere you want to go. If you want to go exercise at the beach, you can do all that sort of stuff. So we're a couple weeks away from being in full production. So I just signed off on the first 100 units, last week with our manufacturer. So we've gone through the design cycle, and if you've been following me on social media,
absolutely,
like the biggest guy we've had on there is 6'10", 300 pounds. So massive.
Big guy.
And the smallest person is my daughter, who is basically 5'3" and 100 pounds.
And again.
Right. So, and she's 11, and this guy's a professional basketball player. So it really kind of covers that whole gamut of opportunity because it matches anybody's output. So it's good for, it's good for you, Carrie. And I know, Rosie, you're way stronger than Carrie is. So it's, it would match you.
Watch it.
Right? So the ISOFIT, product line is growing. And like subsequently in the last couple of weeks, we've been contacted by a Major League baseball team, a Major League basketball team, as well as a Major League football team. So
to show the difference there for a sec. Sorry to interrupt you, but I just did because you were talking about the different machines, and here's the one I've actually been on. This one, I wish I spent more time with you because after working out with you, it made a huge difference. And then here's I think this is the portable one. Am I correct?
Yep, correct.
Right. So you can see, once again, Paul, you can see the massiveness of this. I know my good friend Dick Flynn swears by it. He's been using this and working with you for years now. Incredible advancement because obviously, having that big, bulky machine, you can't take it to every house. This one certainly can move anywhere, as you said.
Oh, exactly. And it's the reviews that we've had thus far have been just exceptional. As I said, the sporting community at a professional level is now reaching out, which is great. But the cool thing about it, you can exercise at home. right? When it's folded down, the high point is actually 5 inches high. So, you know, you can fold it up and, you know, everyone sort of says, oh, good, you can put it under your bed, you can put it in your closet. To be honest, I don't want you to put it under your bed, and I don't want you to put it in your closet. I actually want you to use the damn thing, right? It's not about making the sale. It's about creating the change that I want.
Well, you know how
right?
people are. I put my clothes on my Bowflex. So,
Well, you know, you can technically hang your laundry on it, Kerry, so you will be okay.
all right, good.
You know, you can drape it over top. You know, so those good things, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been a remarkable sort of journey. Obviously, COVID has been awful for a lot of people, including myself, and you know, a bunch of people I know. But at least this has given me a sort of a brighter side of sort of the whole experience.
Well, thank you.
I got guns too.
Thank you,
I got guns too.
Come on, Gouche, man. I'm 60 years old. All right.
Okay, I'm
Anyway,
61.
Brad,
That's why I pulled off.
I just started 2 weeks ago. I got back on the ice again for the first time in 7 years. I would love to get on the machine and give her a go.
Oh, absolutely. Anytime. We're just, you know, because we're all Toronto based, so we're just downtown, right at Yonge and Davisville.
Right.
So you let me know when you're free, and we can sort that out.
Can we buy one of those? How much are those little small ones?
How much? Sorry.
How much are the small ones?
So it's going to retail for $16.29 US. But for anybody in Canada, I'll be honest, I'm going to par that up.
How about
just because I got to support my own up here. You know?
Is there a friend's discount?
There's always a friend's discount. There's always a friend. It's going to be amazing how many friends I have now.
I know.
So all my social media sites are going to blow up.
By 16, you mean 1,600, right?
Yeah. Yes. Not $16.29. Unfortunately.
No.
Well, someday Twitch Live will buy you one day.
Now the cool thing is, right? It's made in Canada. So if we all want to know why it's expensive, Canadian labor force is a little bit more expensive than a third world country, and I'm proud to keep it here, and I want to keep it here. So we're paying for quality. We're paying to give Canadian people jobs, and that won't change.
Fantastic.
You know, I have no interest in ever going overseas, and people always talk about profit margins, and they're like, well, it's going to be good for your company. You can lower the price point. You know what? I'm happy to keep it here. I'm happy to have people pay for it a little bit more because it's a great product, and you can do thousands of exercises on it. And it's, you know, from everybody. Like one of my good clients has got spina bifida, so he's for the most part wheelchair bound. Like he can do a bunch of stuff, and he uses primarily the larger ISOFIT. But we're able to like wheel up the chair to the MSK, so we can do a whole bunch of upper body stuff. So with people with, you know, because I know where we originally met was with the sort of Play It Cool sort of organization and Shoot for a Cure.
Yes.
And so individuals with wheelchairs can now roll up to the machine, and eventually, after we get the first 100 and 200 units sold behind us, we're going to look to make it basically like an accessible model for the wheelchair and accessible community, right? Because to me, that's hugely important. I know it's important to you as well, Kerry, and that matters, right? Also you, Rosie, of course. You know, so you're allowed to have it matter to you too.
Rosie matters too.
Yeah, Rosie matters too. I don't want to exclude you, buddy.
No, appreciate it.
But yeah, I'm excited to get you on the product as well, though. So, because
you talk about spinal bifida, you know, I played 10 years for the Canadian sled team, the para team, and the best player, or arguably one of the best players in the world, Billy Bridges, who has a cannon, shot 80 miles an hour with one hand. He has spinal bifida. He's in and out of a chair. He uses his crutches sometimes, but he's an absolute monster. And the fact that your machine is going to be there for anybody who's, I always say I'm able-bodied, not disabled. My disability is my ability, but that you're going to do that. Bravo, man, because there's so many people out there that want to be treated equal.
Oh, exactly. And this levels that playing field, right? Because it normally with dynamic-based exercise, it's challenging for people who have, you know, impairments.
Yes.
Right. Because whether it's handling the load, positioning yourself on the bench, with the MSK, so the mobile strength kit, you can just sort of wheel up and you can sort of pivot and move the bar. And as I said, it needs to be sort of redesigned slightly for the accessible community. But once it is, and the design is already in my brain, I won't sort of mention that publicly because we're going to have to file some more patents and stuff.
Yep.
But it just makes it accessible to everybody. And for me, That's hugely important, right? Because it's not always about that person who is the high performing athlete. I think everybody on the planet cares about performance, and that performance might be getting off the toilet. It
Yep.
might be, walking down the street, getting into, a car, for example.
Yep.
So all of those things matter. And, for the para community, we're coming for you.
Fantastic.
And we're going to help you all out. So
Well done. Hey, listen, I want to change strides. Thank you for that. Thank you for being an innovator. This has been your whole life dream. I've watched you from the small little things that you've done all the way now to the big ISO fits, and have changed it. I follow you on Facebook. I love what you're doing, and of course, I've been in your gym. You're remarkable, and you're an innovator. You're an entrepreneur. Your wife is fantastic. You guys work as a team, and what's amazing about this is that you took advantage. Sorry, that's not the right terminology. You saw a problem in the situation that COVID was presenting in our school system, and you actually stepped up and did something about it, which is really important. As in where we are with the King Heights Academy, it's a private academy. It's inclusive to everyone. Obviously there are always issues with public sector versus private. It's all those question marks. But with yours, it's really understandable, very, very understandable. It's girls only academy where girls will be girls, and you've really taken the opportunity to protect them through this. You're building mental, emotional, and physical strength all at once. Talk to us about it, and how did you come up with this great idea? Because as you say, you're protecting our greatest assets.
I'm not going to take full credit for this, because it lies in all, to be honest, it lies all on my wife. So last year, she came up with this idea. So we have a gym downtown Toronto, as you know, and she was overseeing a high performance tennis program. And it was a mixed sex program. So you had males and you had females. And what she noticed over the last couple of years with running the program, was that the young girls would shy away from being awesome because of the boys, right? So she noticed this, and us having a young girl, it's like we didn't want our daughter to be that person where, a good looking guy comes in and they're like, I can't try anymore. I can't beat the boy. I can't do that. And it's not everybody. It was just a very, very large percentage of the girls that would act like this. And this is even in a high performance environment. So what my wife came up with was, effective not this year, but last year. She wanted to operate a girls only camp, for my daughter as well as other kids, and bring in, entrepreneurially minded women, whether it didn't really matter the space, whether it was chefs, entrepreneurs, business people, musicians as well, and basically create an environment for girls really to be girls. And that's a play off that expression, when those boys are like little craps. We changed the word there. But when boys are, boys will be boys. Like that is associated with a guy doing something stupid, right? Not overly intelligent. So it's kind of a play off that with our little tagline, girls will be girls. We want girls to be girls. We want them to excel. We want them to be awesome for everything that it is to be a girl. They learn differently. And so with COVID, and so we're jumping forward this year, my wife came to me, and she's like, you know what? I don't really feel so comfortable with what's going on with what they're proposing for the educational system. And, their whole rollout strategy, and effective since February of last year, we experienced their online educational platform. And for us and our experience, it was brutal. I would say my daughter had her work done in 20 minutes a day, and then she was left up to her own devices, and we still had to work. So what are we supposed to do with our kid when we work? So we started bringing her to work with us, and that's not the ideal thing for an 11-year-old girl. And so what we ended up doing this time around, so when Doug Ford, politics aside, he's done an amazing job for many things with COVID. He's dropped the ball in a whole bunch of stuff. So it's not about Doug Ford or not, or Ford Nation. But what it is about what we've done from an educational perspective was brutal. And we decided at the beginning of August, once they sort of came out with their announcement of how they're going to roll it out, that we were going to not send our daughter back to school, right? She was going to have a gap year. which subsequently I found out it's actually against the law. Didn't know that at the time. So I was on record basically by August 2nd saying, I'm not sending my kid back to school. And then we discovered this Facebook page called Learning Pods Canada. I'd never heard of a learning pod in my life. And what they were proposing was basically an environment where you could educate kids in a group, but it wasn't really homeschooling, and it wasn't really a private school. And I jumped at the opportunity of this because I thought it was absolutely genius, because we have an 11,000 square foot gym in Toronto. And with COVID, we basically gave up our whole group exercise program, and we eliminated sort of self-directed workouts. So traditionally when you'd go to a gym and work out by yourself, so we got rid of all that and made it a private personal training studio. So we had an abundance of space. So we came up with an action plan saying, okay, well, if we're going to run one of these learning pods, what is it going to cost us to rent the space? Because, you know, I have investors that we obviously have to generate income for the space. I have my daughter, and I want her to have an experience that is not myself teaching, it's not my wife teaching. We're not qualified teachers. We want an Ontario certified teacher to teach the program. And so what happened was we figured out, okay, let's take, you know, $90,000. Is that enough? And with $90,000, work back, you know, what does it cost for an OCT? What does it cost for rent, legal, insurance, and all these wonderful things? And what we found out over the course of, 4 weeks or 3 weeks, actually, as we were putting all this together, we needed to have a minimum of 8 people to make it affordable for us as a family, because we didn't plan on sort of, dropping any money on my daughter's education. We're fans of public education. We always have been. Up until now, I always was, or I always thought I would be. But what it allowed us to do quickly was, I reviewed the Ontario Education Act. I reviewed the policies and procedures for what it is to actually operate a private school, because we are hearing chatter that if you have more than 5 students in one of these pods, you needed to legally register as a private school. And I was like, oh, damn, I've never thought about private school for my daughter, because financially it was never in the books. Because what we thought was $29,000 to $45,000 a year. And because we have the ability to be very, very lean and mean in our environment, we're able to get that cost down to between $1,200 and $1,600 per month, or $12,000 to $16,000 per student. At the $12,000 point, which is where we're currently operating right now, we're actually cheaper than what it is to send a kid to public school, which for me, that kind of blows my mind, is that in 5 weeks, I could find an OCT, I could get space, I could socially distance these people and offer an educational system and program that is cheaper than what the Ontario government is doing. We have daily fitness classes, we have Spanish class, we have French class, because we can, in a private school setting, we can construct and manipulate sort of the learning curriculum as we need to make the experience for these girls amazing. So the program itself is, so Girls Only Academy is for 8 grade 6 girls. And it's been fantastic. We started a week ago yesterday, so we're now basically 11 days in, and the TDSB still hasn't even started. So I think that's amazing.
Yeah, unbelievable. You know what? I had the opportunity when I first started playing to train a little with the women. Sammy Jo Small and Jamie McGuire were my goalie coaches, and I had a chance to go on the ice. And for anybody out there that thinks that the women or girls cannot compete at the same level as boys or men, I'm telling you, man, a couple of times, Jillian Apps, if you remember that name, she played for the women's team. She hit me in the head a couple of times with a couple of slappers. And so what I want to ask you is, do you get that perception from the guys that, what kind of, like, the women can't really do it, the girls can't do it? Do they still feel that way, even though we know now that, females can do anything as good or better than any guy out there?
A lot of that comes from usually the parents, to be honest. The way the children have been raised as of late it's the I guess what's the word I'm looking for? The playing field's been leveled. Women have proven time and time and time and time again that they're beyond exceptional, right? And when you take a world-class woman and a world-class guy, there's not that much difference anymore. The difference is the guys they are bigger and they are stronger. Their skill isn't much better, and arguably their skill's worse, right? So you look at that, and from a learning perspective, a lot of the literature, because I'm going to go with the brains are wired differently, and I might have to eat some crow on that, but they learn differently, right? They have different hormonal structures and stuff like that. And with the menstrual cycle and with the importance, my daughter's 11, so she's now heading into the sort of transitioning into a young woman, and that's important as well, to provide that environment where it's more comfortable for these young girls, right? From a learning perspective, from a sexual development perspective as well. And as both for all of us guys, we're a little bit challenging. We're a little bit annoying at a young age, and we're still trying to figure ourselves out. And you throw in hormones and stuff like that.
We're still challenging at an older age.
well, exactly. So to equal and not equal, to give these young ladies a great platform to learn and to excel and to learn who they are, right? Because this is one of the big sort of self-discovery journeys that anybody actually has to go through. But when you get put into a classroom of 30 plus people, let's go 20 plus people, you get forgotten about, right? It doesn't matter the intention of the teacher. It's just they don't have time. They don't have that ability to get to all the students. So in our environment, we only have 8 people, right? It's a first name basis. It's a I understand everything about you perspective, your strengths, your weaknesses, your desires, your hopes and your dreams. And it comes back to, we can make that experience much, much better. So
I want to go here I'm a teacher. Last week I was asked to go into classroom and work with kids a little bit on confidence, because we do this show, and you've known me for a long time, Brad. I have, and Paul's the exact same. Whether it's one person or 2,000 people, and I know you're the same, Brad, we can get up and talk to anybody at any time about anything, because we can make up stuff if we need to. But it's that confidence to be able to stand up and talk. And so they've asked me, because at private schools, maybe dissimilar to public schools, sometimes people are a little intimidated because, that close environment also brings the fact that, there's cliques and stuff. So they asked me not to be a teacher, but just to come in and talk to the kids about self-confidence. How do you do public speaking? So they asked me to do this last week, and it's the first time I've coached kids before, but I got to say, what I've heard you just say is so important. From going from that 30 to 8, I had 8 kids in the classroom, different ages, different learning abilities, no question. And I had to talk a little bit about social media and having confidence to present yourself. And it was the first time I've had the opportunity. And I'll tell you what, if I would have had 30 kids, there's no way you could get those 30 kids to understand what I was trying to present. It took me the first 15 minutes just to understand the playing field that I was on. And then I got to the first name basis, as you mentioned, and the kids became more attentive. Like, they were asking questions, whether they were 7 years old all the way to 12 years old. That was kind of the range. And what I saw from your pictures, and that's what my point was coming across, that environment you're giving them is so more conducive to learning than this big, massive room. And that kid at the back who probably got to the back because they didn't want to be able to see if they put their hand up or kind of duck below. And I did that myself when I was in school. This way you can't hide, and you have to have engagement. And I found that invigorating. And I wanted to end it with this, and then I'd like to hear your comment. Paul saw this yesterday. I stumbled my way through it. I went online, learned. Kevin Shea had given me some tips and stuff. And so I took some time. I took it very serious. And when I got to the end of it, I just said, listen, I know we all use our laptops and our TVs. I just want you to draw me a screen and draw me a superhero. And throughout the 8 of them, I've got 5 kids that drew all the things. And my picture was very poorly drawn. I did Catwoman and Superman in stick form. And the kids chuckled. And so I got unbelievable drawings. But the one that really was fascinating was this one. Can you see it?
I can, yeah. Amazing.
Yeah. So I said, please write a superhero, like draw a superhero. And 3 of the girls, not the guys, 3 of the girls drew a mother. One other girl actually drew her cat and dog as superpowers. I thought that was absolutely telling. So talk to me about that. Your learning environment, incredibly clean, not overwhelming. And of course, just having girls there. Talk to us about that.
It's, we're very, very fortunate in the sense that because the room was sort of set up as a spin room prior to, it's gone through a couple different sort of permutations. It originally started actually as a child minding room, right? So that's why the floor is yellow, right? Because we wanted to have something bright, something fun, something engaging from a color perspective. And then from there, the lighting, we have LED lights on the walls, so the girls can have like a little bit of a dance party in here as well if they want to. I'm told by the teacher they haven't done that yet, but they will by the end of the year, I hope. But what it was about creating a very soft, calming environment, using colors as well as, right, you can sort of see behind me there's a blackboard, paint wall. We have a whiteboard as well. We have a projector, for any of the sort of the digital sort of content that the teacher sort of uses. But it was about creating that safe environment. And with us, it had to be about social distancing. We need to have the young girls safe. We need to have the families of the young girls safe. And I guess I should say safer, because obviously the risks are still quite high. They're just reduced with only 8 people. And we spend about, I guess today, for example, class is 6 hours long. They spent 4 hours outside, right? You have that luxury of going outside with nice weather. There's a parkette right behind where our business is. And, they go down to the brickworks, they walk through the ravines, they walk in the Beltline. So that's hugely important to have that sort of outdoor engagement, because you don't get that usually in school.
No.
And specifically now, and being attached to a gym, the kids get to exercise daily, right? They go down into the gym space and they're learning about exercise, right? And for me, and as we've had many conversations about this before, Carrie, if you can teach a kid how to exercise, you can teach them really kind of how to prevent osteoporosis, prevent hypertension, prevent obesity, and prevent all these things if they have the knowledge and confidence to exercise properly. Right. As opposed to what most people, when they go to a gym, they don't have a clue what to do. So we can instill that in these young girls as well. So that way they don't make the wrong decisions from a health and well-being perspective that lead to injury. Right. And what we're able to do also is take that knowledge, and because they're young athletic girls, like one's in hockey, one's in basketball, right? One does Brazilian jiu-jitsu. So it's like you can amalgamate all that with what we do. Right.
Well,
so for me,
also, if you don't mind me injecting, in the back, I thought I was going to order a coffee on your chalkboard. I thought I was going to Starbucks, for God's sakes. But what I wanted to say on what you just said, so important. And Paul, I'm sure you have daughters. So here's the point that I think I see in that. I don't have children, but we have a perceived thought of what a young girl is and what she should be and what she should wear and how she should look and how she should behave. And I think that's important for you, as what you're doing is to give them an environment that, yes, they can be themselves, but you can also instill that you are not what men perceive you to be. You can be anything you want to be.
Yep, exactly. And, one of the most vital lessons I've taught my daughter, and this was hugely important for me, the only person in the world that matters that you love is yourself, right? Love yourself first, no matter what. Before your parents,
yes,
love yourself first.
Yeah.
And then love your mom second. I'll be okay with being third place for this one, but just as long as I'm in there, right? And as I tell her, I love myself first, and then I love you second. You know, unfortunately, my wife gets dumped down to third on that one. You know, and I don't even know if,
Paul, sometimes a animal or a pet comes in before the spouse.
I'm not.
Listen,
I'm down on the fifth rung, right? But
you know what? I got 2 daughters, 36 and 32, and a son, 34, and my oldest daughter has 3 kids, so I have 3 grandchildren, and I am. If I could put myself in the top 10, I'm going to be happy. So I don't even care about that. Hey,
you're listening to Gouche Live featuring Paul Rosen, brought to you by the good people at the Hockey News and, of course, Sports Illustrated, but also from ISOFIT.
Yeah, and Paramount Sports Management for sure. This last question, Brad, I just wanted, is there still time for, if people are watching right now and the parents are saying, is there still time to get their daughter into your program?
We're looking to start a second class, right? So our first class is full, so there's no room in that one.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, it was pretty awesome, to be honest. You know, so we're registered as a private school, so that's all done. We have another sort of 800 square foot room. Like the one I'm currently in right now is just over 600 square feet, so it's actually a bigger room. The price point on that's going to be $1,600 a month with basically the year-long commitment. You know, so it's not going to be quite $16,000 because we basically burned through the first month already. But it's going to be in and around $6,000 or $16,000. If we can get 8 people, we would love to do it, right? But we can't do it for less. You know, from a dollar perspective, because we need to be able to hire the appropriate people, and the costs are the costs.
Yeah.
So if there are people out there, go to girlsonlyacademy.ca. Let us know you're interested. Whether it's French immersion, we can do whatever we want. So if we want to do a French immersion class, we can, but it's for girls only. And we've had a ton of guys reach out, or parents of guys reach out, and they're like, can my son come in? It's like, no, sorry. It's just, that's not what we want. Because part of the issue with that is boys tend to be a little bit more distractive. And when you can't really have one boy, you need to have 2 boys or 3 boys. And now we have smaller spaces, and they're a little bit more rambunctious.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
well, and I think after that, closing up on this, I think what's important is to understand, obviously watching the private sector here, being involved with the King Heights Academy, and understanding what you're doing. You know, I think it's the way of the future. I know it's a cost factor. Some people need to put their kids into public domains, but I'll tell you what you mentioned, the kids are going out here, they're going into a field, it's controlled, it's a controlled environment, but there's so much more flexibility, and there's more one-on-one contact from the teachers, from the principal walking through the actual school itself, the vice principal. I just see it more of a family almost here. Everybody knows everybody, and it's not that big, huge. You're just a number in a school system. Final point to you, Brad. We're really proud of you. Congratulations on the huge success and being able to adapt quickly, because some people are still trying to figure it all out. Just a final question: what happens if we do get hit with another second wave? Is that going to affect what you're doing?
To a degree, it will. So I'm not going to say it won't. We have it set up as though, so let's say we do have to be sheltered in place again. We'll just turn to an online learning program, right? So we have that capability. The teacher's incredible. Young lady by the name of Haley Pyle. So she's a West Coast girl. She was in the sort of the national swim program for synchronized swimming. And so her level of precision and knowledge and detail is something I'm just in awe of, to be honest. But we're set up so if we need to go shelter in place, we can do that. If a kid needs to be quarantined for 2 weeks, because let's say a parent goes out of the country for business or whatever, that child will actually be stuck at home. So we have it already in place where that child will be able to, stay at home and be a part of the class, right? Because of technology nowadays, we got great internet, so that person can, whether it's Zoom in or Google Classroom, which is what we use, we can do that. If we're legally allowed to be outside in groups, we'll look to do that as well.
All right.
Right? We do have that flexibility to pivot on a dime if we need. If we need to bring in somebody specific, we can do that. So the experience is how we're looking at this year. It's about creating the best possible educational experience as we can, considering the environment that we're in.
Yeah.
So
Well, fantastic, Brad. We wish you luck. We'll stay in touch. We'd like to maybe get you back in a couple of weeks to keep on continuing, allowing people to understand that there is more to education than just sending it to the public. There are private options, and yours seems absolutely fantastic. And I couldn't ask for two better people running it.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, as we like to tell people, we're kind of like a private school for the middle class, right? Because we're $12,000 to $16,000 a year. As we're not 29, we're not 48,
Right.
And it's small, intimate, and it's a loving environment in the sense that we're getting to know all the kids, we're getting to know all the families because there's only 8.
Yeah,
right? It's a small thing, and my wife's got big lofty plans for Girls Only Academy, and next year there might be maybe 10 locations in the city.
That's
so who knows?
fantastic. All right. Well, Brad, thank you so much. Don't forget about your ISOFIT. Please check it out. Go and check out Brad Thorpe, ISOFIT, and of course, girlsonlyacademy.ca. Thank you, Brad.
Thanks, Brad.
Gentlemen, thank you guys very much, and good luck with everything. So
We'll get you
stay
down
safe,
to the
stay
studio, our new studio, once everybody's able to move around.
Yeah, and what we'll do is we'll bring in a couple ISOFITs, so that way you can have a workout together.
Paul
There you
can
go.
do it. Thanks, buddy.
I'll go toe to toe with Gouche.
Oh, you'll crush them. You'll crush
Well,
them.
hang on. I got 10 of them. See you, kids.
Later, guys. Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Nobody got my joke. I got 10 of them.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, buddy. Listen, good show again. Roger Lajoie was absolutely amazing. Really impressed by what Brad and his wife are doing.
Oh,
Like,
my
not
God.
everybody just opens up and does something like that, but they're the right couple. They're very,
Absolutely. Looking forward to it. Looking forward to Warren Sukia tomorrow.
absolutely. You've been watching Gouche Live featuring Paul Rosen, brought to you by the good people at the Hockey News and Sports Illustrated.
And Paramount Sports Management.
Good night, kids.
Let's play some hockey.